Hey, what's good with it, y'all? It's Logan. I got my boy Elijah here.
What's up, y'all? I'm super excited to be back.
Yes, sir. And just like last week, we're going to hit y'all with some reviews. And then we got a fun draft picked out for y'all after we finish up the reviews. We were going to do something involving Drake, but being that he pushed back his album a little bit more, we're going to push that back until the week that it's supposed to be released so that it's a little bit more relevant. All right?
Yeah, hopefully he does release it.
Yeah, facts. Fingers crossed. That being said, we had 4 albums that dropped this week we want to talk about, and we'll get right into it. I will kick us off with Nas's Magic 3. I think that the name Nas speaks for itself. I'm not going to give too much of a background into him. Obviously, he's one of the GOATs. This is the 6th album in a saga of albums he has dropped with Hit Boy, which include the King's Disease trilogy and now the completed Magic trilogy. I guess he could always hit us with a Magic 4, but based on the way this album ended, it sounded like this is kind of the end of their working together. A little bit of an open door left for that, but it seems like this should be where they kind of split ways for a little bit and go their own paths. My one fear going into this album is that he's been dropping a lot of music really fast lately, and that Magic 2 just didn't stand up to the test of the other King's Disease albums and Magic 1. That being said, the first track I heard on this just told me right away this is going to be a step up for Magic 2. He's more aggressive. He seems more focused on his bars. Of course, Hit Boy always hits us with the good production, so I wasn't afraid of that at all. But yeah, overall, right away, he establishes the tone. This is going to be a step up. You're going to enjoy this a lot more. This is Nas coming hungry, which is fun to see from an artist in his 29th active year in his rapping career. That is a lot of fun to see.
Wow.
Do I think that, right? 1994 to 2023, man. Do I think that this album's going to blow you away? No, it's not. No one's going to claim that this is Nas's best album. I mean, his best work was in the 90s to early 2000s. Now he's just having fun. He's not doing anything to raise his GOAT case. He's just showing you that he's still got it, and by God, he's still got it. I really enjoy the fact that he's coming with a more aggressive flow, with more bars over, again, the sweet production of Hit Boy. But I also enjoy the fact that he adds in some storytelling elements on there. I really enjoy the fact that he brought in Lil Wayne on a feature. Of course, we love seeing 2 GOATs work together. And overall, I just enjoy the fact that this is a good, cohesive 45-minute album of a artist working with a producer. They both enjoy working together, and again, at the end, he kind of leaves the door open for more to be done. But overall, I do think this is a closing chapter in their story together. I think it's a good way to close it. Again, not Nas's best album, no one's going to claim that, but I do really enjoy it, and I think that you would enjoy it as well if you are a Nas fan.
Yeah, so Logan really hit the nail on the head there with everything, really. Best thing I can really add is just kind of going off, how Logan said 29 years in the game. I mean, he's 29 years in the game and still going strong, like he's still out here making good quality music, and that's always a great thing to see with GOATs. I mean, we see a lot of the GOATs aren't even releasing music anymore. Like, Jay-Z's still not really dropping music. Kanye is not really dropping music, honestly. But it's good to see Nas is active, not only just active, but still dropping. And, you can debate whether Magic 2 was really bad or good, whatever the case. But the fact of the matter is, if 5 of the past 6 albums were good, that's still a good sign, And I really like that he added, like as Logan said, I'm a big fan of Lil Wayne. I love seeing Lil Wayne features. I love seeing 2 GOATs, like Logan said, like Nas and Lil Wayne working together, because you just don't see that every day. I mean, it's just not something that happens a lot. So it's nice to get them, and it's just nice to see, like I said, to see someone who I grew up listening to. I mean, he came out of the game before I was even born, but I grew up listening to him because my dad listened to him, so it was good to see him still going strong, even today. And not just going strong, but fitting in with the music of today. Like his style has been adapted to kind of like, he still has his Nas flow, but it works with today's music, and I really love all that.
Oh yeah, man. All right, so what you got for us, Elijah?
Well, since we're talking about today's music, let's talk about probably one of the bigger artists we have today. Kind of a relatively new artist, but he's kind of taken over the world. Not in the world, but like definitely taken over like hip hop in a way. We have Rod Wave.
I tell you what, my high school kids love him.
Listen, I'm a big Rod Wave
love
fan.
him, praise him. They think he's the GOAT, I think.
And you know what? I'm not gonna go that far, but I can understand why they really like him. You know, we talked about I think it was not last week, but the week before, we talked about how Kanye started the whole emo rap phase, and how people like Rod Wave took influence directly from 808s and Heartbreak. Well,
Yep.
Rod Wave is still Rod Wave. We're specifically talking about this album. I mean, honestly, it's not much different than his other previous albums, and I mean that in a great way. Like, he's still keeping the momentum. He's not doing anything different, but the momentum is still there, from when he first dropped to now. I know that some people may not like this style of music. His style of music is kind of hit or miss for some people, and for me, I really enjoy it. I mean, I love the singing, rapping. I think he's a very good singer, along with being able to rap it, mixing in with rap as well. And this album was just another very, very, very good example of what he's able to do with his voice specifically. He's very talented vocally. I don't think people give him credit for that, but he's very vocally talented, and I really like that he's able to flip samples. Like, he has that Paramore sample. Cannot remember the name of the song on the album, but I know he sampled Paramore, and you know, Logan may disagree. Logan may disagree with me on this, but I think he did a good job with his voice on that. It may not be the best combination, but I personally really like that one. Did you find the song? Other than that,
it was crazy. Sorry, you were kind of lagging there. We got some internet connection issues, but we're good. It was Crazy, the song on his album, and he was sampling "Ain't It Fun" by Paramore.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So that song, you know, you can hear it immediately once this plays. You hear the sample. You hear the Paramore vibes. And he's been big on sampling just big artist songs and flipping them. You can debate whether they're flipped good or not, but the talent to be able to make all these songs and be able to still be, you know, getting to the level he is. I'm a big Rod Wave fan, and this album didn't do anything to change my opinion on him, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Now that his positivity's over with, let me get into talking about this album. So, it's just about an hour long, which is what you would expect from a Rod Wave album. I am with him. I've enjoyed Rod Wave up to this point. I think my favorite album by him has by far been Soulfly. That was probably his most heartfelt and soul-touching, no pun intended, album. But overall, the biggest complaint about him has been that a lot of his music sounds the same, and it does. It's just a matter of when do you get to that point that it's too much, that it's too repetitive. When do you get to that point? Well, I hit that point on this album, all right? I don't hate this album by any means. I just think it's too repetitive, and if you check our Instagram page, you can even see, I posted up there, how do you people get so excited for someone to drop the same album every year? That is how I felt about this album. I saw a review online that called this Rod Wave Control-C, Control-V, the album. And that is accurate if I've ever heard it. Okay, again, I enjoy the slower songs, the singing, rapping sound. I enjoy all of that. But at some point it gets to be too much, and it doesn't sound inspired anymore. It just sounds like cashing checks. I do really enjoy the 21 Savage feature on here, and like I said, not every single song's bad. I don't even know that I would say any of the songs are bad. I do think that Crazy, the one that flips the Paramore sample, is pretty bad. That is a very energetic song, and he sucked all the energy out of it and just made me kind of depressed. I think the biggest thing that I have to say about this album is I almost fell asleep listening to it because I was bored. Again, I like Rod Wave. I will go back and listen to Soulfly any day, but I just don't have the energy to keep going through new music if he's going to keep repeating the same thing he's doing. I don't think this is one of the worst albums of the year. Maybe by the end of the year I will. I don't know. It's just, again, it's not very inspired. It's very repetitive. It's very, this is what makes me money. I'm going to do it again. You know? That's what I got out of it.
And I'll kind of close it up with this, because I was being very positive, but in all honesty, this is one of those albums where if you're a huge Rod Wave fan, this doesn't change anything for you. This album doesn't change your opinion of him at all. If you're a Rod Wave hater, same thing. This album's actually more fuel for your fire, I guess, if you want to put it that way. So, if I was just talking about this album isn't really anything special. Like I said earlier, like I like Rod Wave. I like this album because I like Rod Wave. But this album itself doesn't really do much for him, in my opinion, because it's just the same thing. Like Logan said, it's just basically copy paste, and copy paste worse because, like I said, Soulfly is definitely my favorite of his albums, and this one is just a way worse version of Soulfly, to keep it real.
Yeah.
But again, I still like Rod Wave. I still think this is still him showing his skill. Just could have done better. Maybe change something up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. That being said, I think we've given enough attention to that repetitive album. Let's move on to my review of Vic Mensa's Victor. Short, sweet review. Not much to say about it. I'm not going to go so far as to say I'm a big Vic Mensa fan or anything, but I have always enjoyed his music and had a soft spot for his music. I think that at times he has been underrated in his career, and this is another example of that, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Is it the best? Is it going to be the best album of the year? No. It's probably going to get somewhere lost in the fold there, but I do think that it is an album that you can go to at any point and enjoy. And I think you can hear a lot of different facets of what makes up a talented hip-hop artist. It's a lot of fun to listen to. Vic Mensa has a more aggressive sound, so you're going to be able to get through it easily. He has some really good flows. He has very underrated lyricism, in my opinion. Again, not the best, not to the level of a Nas, but I do think it's very underrated. And he picked some very solid features throughout here. The only feature that I really kind of wish wasn't on this album was the Jay Electronica feature. No hating on Jay Electronica, it's just, again, he's gotten to the point in his career where most of his feature verses sound about the same. And we just kind of get tired of hearing a little bit of his negativity, if I'm being totally honest. But I'm not going to let that take away from what Vic Mensa did on this project. I mean, he had a solid hook feature by G-Eazy where Chance the Rapper came out rapping about as aggressive as I've ever heard him. Kind of got me a little hyped for any new Chance the Rapper music that we could be getting, despite the fact that his last album was awful. But he also hit us with a Thundercat feature. That's a lot of fun. He hit us with a Common feature. We got D-Smoke on a song. And not only that, the end-all be-all of what makes a good album, if you have this artist on a feature, it's going to be a good album. The best rapper from North Carolina, he got Rhapsody on a song. I don't want to hear any J. Cole talk. Rhapsody's the best rapper from here. I love J. Cole. No hate. But really, I really enjoyed this album. I think it'll probably end up getting lost in the fold of, like, it's probably not making anyone's top 10 of end of the year list. But it is really good. It is really worth listening to. I really enjoyed it. And it's fun to listen to, you know? It's got some deeper tracks on here. It's got some fun to be had on other tracks. I just think you'll find something to enjoy out of it.
Yeah, I really like Vic Mensa. Honestly, I remember back in high school specifically, Vic Mensa was one of the he was up and coming at that point. And he was one of those up and coming rappers that I was really getting into. You know, he was doing some stuff with Kanye, and you know, he's from Chicago, and you know, around that time we had Chief Keef coming out, so like Chicago was kind of like the spot for a few years where rappers were coming out, and I really liked his sound coming out of Chicago at that point in time. And I think that he's shown a lot of really positive and great growth throughout his career, from, you know, where he was to where he is now. And just kind of like what Logan said, this is definitely an album that, like, I'm gonna be honest, just because he's the top artist he is, he's mainstream technically, but he's not like super well known, I'd say, or at least I wouldn't even say super well known. He's just not super like popular, put it that way. So this is probably an album that's gonna get, like Logan said, lost in the fold, but I think that's not because this album deserves to be lost in the fold. Does that make sense? I really enjoyed this album. I think the beat selection was great. Again, I really do like him. I like his style changes on all the songs. I like all the features were great in my opinion. I I really, really, really loved the Chance and G-Eazy song. Surprisingly so. I was not like when I was listening to it, I didn't even realize Chance was on it until I heard his signature, like his voice, obviously. But like when he started rapping, I was like, okay, Vic's going in, and then I heard it was something he said, and I heard Chance's voice. I was like, wait, that's Chance the rapper. So, you know, it's very nice to see that Vic is not only still making good quality music. I mean, I feel like I'm copying what I said from Nas, but like I feel like what I'm trying to say here is I'm happy to see that somebody that I really liked back in high school, I can still enjoy it the same, but for different reasons, if that makes sense. And I think one of the main things I really like about this album is just the fact that it flows well together, but he has different styles on it, and I really enjoy that. I really like that. You get to see kind of his versatility. Like Logan said, he has those songs that's very lyrical, very deep, and he has those songs that are just fun. You know, something you could probably hear somebody mixing up with another song in a club, and you know you'd be really feeling it if you were actually dancing and having fun there. So this is an album that like Logan said, may get lost in the fold, but honestly, this is a sleeper album, in my opinion, to be a top 30 album of the year.
Yeah.
Realistically.
I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree. Really enjoyable. Last but not least, you hit us home with this one, Elijah.
All right, so we're going to be talking about Puff Daddy, P. Diddy. I mean, that shouldn't be too much background needs to be said on him, but, you know, if you know who Puff Daddy is, you know, he's been in the game for a while, too. Probably about as long as Nas, you know, at this point. And so what's very interesting about this album specifically, this album is a huge album. It's 26 songs. It's a very, very big, bloated album, if I'm being honest. I'm going to just say this. I like some of the individual songs off this album. Let me tell you some of the specific songs I like. But at the album as a whole, wow, look that up. The album as a whole, it's not something that I would say is. It's not something I'd say is worth putting in the top 50 even, honestly. It's just great album, great features, or not great album, but great features. But the album as a whole just falls short because a lot of the songs just aren't cohesive. I will say he got a very great Summer Walker feature. I like the song Stay Long and then It Belongs to You. I think those were amazingly, I don't know if you remember those, Logan, but those two songs, Stay Long and It Belongs to You, they flowed into each other so well. I actually really liked that one. I think that was a great, that was a high point of the album, honestly. The fact that those two songs flowed well together. Of course, he had Ty Dolla $ign on a couple songs. Those are always, you know, Ty Dolla $ign is always a great feature artist. I like that he had a Justin Bieber song. Justin Bieber sounded great. Then he had Sway Lee on Tough Love. Actually, Tough Love, Stay Long, and It Belongs to You. Probably the highlight for me. Again, great features. Diddy himself, I mean, he's not really like, yeah, he's an artist, but he's not really like the type of artist that you should really be checking for. Like, oh, is his bars? Is he, you know, whatever. That's not his game, which is fine.
It used to be when he was just starting.
Oh, I kind of lost you there. What did you say?
No, I said he used to be someone that you would check for. When he first started making music.
But at this point in his career, that's just not his thing. I'll say that I think this album could have benefited from just more cohesion. This album probably could have benefited from being split into two separate albums, honestly, and that may have actually made the album a lot better. If we're being honest, like if it was just two separate albums. He even has an intermission B, which is the 11th song of the album, right before the Justin Bieber song, that like clearly sets the tone for the second part of the album. So it's clear that it could have been part 1, part 2, or like, you know, whatever, however you wanted to do two separate albums. But I'm not a big fan of artists doing albums like that. I don't think there's really been too many really successful albums that have been like part 1, part 2 in the same album, especially not recently. Maybe in the past, of course, but recently there just has not been a lot of those really successful albums like that. I texted Logan this when I was listening to the album that it sounded like I told him it sounded like DJ Khaled except slightly better. that's not necessarily a compliment. Like that's
Yeah.
this is just after listening to it a few times, I realized that I like the songs, but the album is just wasn't it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm kind of right there with you, except I think I enjoyed the songs a little bit less. I enjoyed a lot of the songs that you mentioned. Plus, I enjoyed. I don't know if you mentioned Another One of Me featuring The Weeknd and 21.
That was also a good song.
French Montana too, but not as much worth mentioning. French Montana. I enjoy hearing them two on a song together again. From what I saw online, apparently this is The Weeknd's last time being featured on a track, at least under the alias The Weeknd. So that's a big step. That's kind of a sad day.
It is, yeah.
But I did enjoy that feature. But overall, I mean, again, just like the Rod Wave feature, this album almost put me to sleep. I read a lot online about how this album was supposed to be like Diddy stepping in and quote-unquote saving the R&B industry. That wasn't his real intent, but that was kind of the thought behind it. Just creating a compilation album of R&B artists to prop up the industry. But what he ended up doing was a DJ Khaled project, basically. He got the biggest names rather than... If he really wanted to prop it up, he should have gotten smaller named artists who really cared. Instead, he got bigger names just to carry the album on names alone. And the individual parts in this case were greater than the overall sum. I think that, I mean, this album was very directionless. It was very generic. Some gems spread out here and there, but overall, I do not think that this project is worth listening to. In all honesty, pick the artists that you enjoy, and beyond that, don't listen to it. It's nothing special.
I'd say this is one of those albums where like I would pick individual songs, like I would take individual songs off this album and put them together and make my own album, and probably enjoy that more than this album is actually presented as. Like Logan said, there's a lot of big names on here, but as we learned with DJ Khaled, just because there's a bunch of big names does not mean the music is going to be great, or does not mean the music itself is going to sound good altogether, I should say. Sometimes it's just like a movie. Sometimes throwing a bunch of big names on the screen does not make for a good project. Put it that way.
Amen. Yeah, that's all the attention I want to give that one. If you don't have anything else to say, Elijah, we can move on to our draft.
I do want to comment on the R&B thing. I don't understand. I don't know. So did Diddy himself say that he was trying to save R&B with his album, or is that just something that somebody was saying that they think he was trying to do?
It was. It's not specifically something he said. It was just kind of, like I said, the idea behind the project. Like, he knew it was something that kind of needed to happen. And he disagreed with the idea of a rapper stepping in to do it. But at the same time, that was kind of a goal of the album, I guess. It's kind of hard to describe. Yeah, that was just something I read in one of the online reviews that cited little bits of where that was one of the ideas behind the project anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that this album did anything really for R&B, if I'm being honest. I mean, I don't think if you're trying to improve a genre of music, in my opinion, it never really helps to take the biggest artists from that genre, the most well-known, and put them all on the album, because all that does is just allow people to look for who they want to listen to, rather than putting some note names. Like, I do like that he had Jazzy on a couple of songs. He had a couple of songs with artists that were that aren't very well known, and those are actually very enjoyable songs. But the last thing I basically want to say about this album, if his goal was to do that, he should have, like Logan said, he should have taken artists that, it didn't even have to be artists that are like no names. He could have taken somebody like Giveon. He could have taken someone like Ari Lennox. He could have taken someone like Cy Ari the Kid. He could have taken someone like, even, I mean, he could have taken Sampa. Sampa's always a great one to have.
Man, yeah, this album was definitely missing Sampa. That's a good point.
I mean, there's just a bunch of other artists that are still well known that he could have put on here that may not be as big name as some of the artists he put on here, and that probably would have been better, honestly, because they would have cared more, like you said. I think
Let's get a
I
Danny
think
Caesar feature, man.
right. So yeah, no, I really think it could have been a lot better if he took the time to actually put the right people on this album. Put it that way.
Yeah, I agree. That being said, that's our reviews for this week. Let us know what you thought about these albums. Don't hate on us too much for my opinion on the Rod Wave album. Again, I don't hate Rod Wave. He's not as good as you high schoolers act like he is, but I don't hate him. He's just very repetitive. That being said, let's get into it with our draft. I'll go over the rules. Elijah will get the first pick because I had the first pick last week. And hopefully we won't have too many technical difficulties because that could definitely drag down the overall result of this draft. But the idea behind this draft is sequel albums. Everyone knows about sequel albums. We kind of got this idea based on Nas dropping Magic 3. But anyways, the gist of this draft is that you have to pick the best sequel album that you can think of. You cannot take the original. So, for example, since neither one of us is probably going to take one of these 6 Nas albums, we could not take King's Disease or Magic, but we could take King's Disease 2 or 3 or Magic 2 or 3. The other caveat to that, once an album is drafted from a series, that entire series disappears. So if I took Magic 3, neither of us could take Magic 2. If I took King's Disease 2, neither of us could take King's Disease 3. It's gone. Okay? So you can only take one album from that series. That being said, the rules have been laid out. Elijah, you have the first overall pick. We have 6 rounds. The idea is to take 6 rap albums, but not all 6 of them don't have to be rap albums. And then at the end, we are both taking one absolutely has to be non-hip-hop album as a 7th pick, if you will. So that being said, Elijah, let us go through your thought process of this first overall pick. And we are doing a snake draft, by the way, just to lay that out there.
Yeah, so last time we did the draft, Logan had the first pick, and he mentioned how like it's kind of like stressful in a way because it's like you got to set the tone, and you got to make the right choice.
Yeah.
And my thought process is
quick thing. Since he brought up the last draft, the results are in. I did win. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Anyway, this is it's kind of stressful, you know, because it's like I gotta set the tone and I gotta make one of the right picks, because if I don't, then I could lose, obviously. That being said, that does not make this any easier. I have a bunch of different options, a bunch of different ideas going in my head. And this is one of those times where it's like less about like necessarily who you take. What you take first is what you knock off the list for the other person, if that makes sense. So I have really 2 people in mind, 2 albums, but I'm going to go with this because I just want to take this off the list. I'm going to go with the Carter 3. Did you hear what I said?
You got to pay for better Wi-Fi, bro. What'd you say?
Oh my God, I don't know what's going on today. I said the Carter 3.
Okay. I knew it was going to be between 2 albums, which means that I'm going to take the other one, and I'm going to take... I'm writing down the results, by the way. So I'll take the Carter series off, and with my first pick, and I get 2 picks in a row, I am going to take Graduation by Kanye.
Fair.
So the college series is out of the way as well. And then I get another pick back-to-back. And with my second pick, I'm going to take one that I think a lot of people online are going to love. And even the people who hate this artist love this album, I think. I'm taking the first Marshall Mathers LP because it is considered a sequel to the Slim Shady LP.
Okay.
So,
That's a good one.
Prime Eminem, best Eminem album. And, again, Graduation. Not the best Kanye album. You can make an argument, maybe it is, but you have the Carter 3, I got Graduation and MMLP.
All right, so my next pick. This may surprise you, but this is the one that I didn't realize but it counts. I'm taking Dirty Sprite 2 by Future.
Yep, I had that on my list.
And I mean, I should have known because it's Dirty Sprite 2, obviously, but nobody thinks about it being like the second part because it completely outshines the first one. But I'm taking that because I'm appealing to the fans. And now for my next pick. This is where it gets a little tough because I have two people in mind.
Okay.
But I'm going to go with. I'm gonna go with The Hard Knock Life by Jay-Z. The second one.
So, yep, Blueprint 2. No, sorry. Volume 2. Volume 2.
Yes, Volume 2, yes.
Yep. Okay. That's funny. I had Blueprint 2 on here, but I didn't have the Volume series. I guess that shows which one I'm more of a fan of. Good pick, though.
Fair
Good
enough.
pick.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, you took Volume 2, which means I get exactly what I wanted. I'm taking 2001, The Chronic by Dr. Dre.
Fair. I was thinking about that one, too.
And after that, I am taking the sequel to arguably the greatest album of all time. Give me Stillmatic, the sequel to Illmatic.
Damn. Man, I was I should have known you wouldn't let that fall too much further, but I was hoping that maybe I could slip that.
The idea of this draft came from Nas. I wasn't letting that one slide.
All right, so we have 3 picks, or do you have 4 and a half?
I have 4, you have 3.
Okay, so I have 2 more. I have 3 more, but 2 back to back.
Yep.
Damn. So I'm gonna go with something that people may question this one, but if you haven't listened to this album, then you need to listen to this album. I'm going with the documentary 2 by The Game.
Okay, that was on my list. I can't say it would have been my next pick, but I really respect that. Definitely pales in comparison to the first documentary, but definitely lives up to it at the same time.
Exactly. It's one of those rare ones where, like, the first one's definitely better, but, like, it's right there.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Which is better, the documentary 2 or the documentary 2.5?
I enjoy 2.5 more, but...
Okay. But you're drafting 2.
I'm drafting 2, but I enjoy 2.5 more.
Okay.
I enjoy that one more. I think 2 might be more popular with other people. Like, people might like that one more, but I think 2.5 was a little bit better. But I'll stick with 2 just for that. And then my next album, this is where it gets a little tough because we got some albums taken off the board already. Now, we didn't say this in the rule. Can we take the same artist if we really wanted to, as long as it's not the same sequel, just same artist, or?
Yes, you can do that.
All right, well, I'm just gonna go with the Blueprint 2.
Okay. I respect that. That leaves me with my last 2 hip-hop picks.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Looking at my list, I see a serious lack of trap music. So I'm taking Savage Mode 2.
Oh, okay. Wow. Fair enough. That's a great pick. Wow. I have nothing else to say other than that was a great pick. Wow.
Yep. And now for my last hip-hop pick, I'm torn between 2. I'm not going to say what the one I didn't pick was until I know what you are picking. I'm picking my personal favorite over what I think maybe more of the fans would enjoy. I am taking Run the Jewels 4.
Okay. That's a really good one. Whew. All right, so I got to end this one. Well, no, you end it, but I have to take one more.
Yeah.
Damn.
One more hip-hop album.
We really kind of said a lot of really great ones, so it's kind of hard to come up with one. I'm gonna say Man on the Moon 2.
Okay.
By Kid Cudi.
I was waiting for a Man on the Moon album to get drafted. So that ends the hip hop aspect of this one. Just for the record, I want to throw out the album I was talking about that I wanted to draft, but I decided to go with RTJ4. I wanted to take Saturation 3 by Brockhampton. I know there's a lot of Brockhampton fans out there, and that's my personal favorite of those 3. But also left on the board, we had any of the Thug Motivation series by Jeezy, and one of my personal favorites, Visions of Bodies Being Burned, part of the Clipping sequel to There Existed an Addiction to Blood.
It's funny that you said Thug Motivation was on the board because I was going back and forth if I wanted to take that one or if I wanted to take Kid Cudi for my last pick. I was going to pick the second one, or 102, I should say. I was going to pick Thug Motivation 102 if I was going to choose one. But it's great to see that was up there.
That was the best one. Yeah. So before we get into our non-hip hop picks, let's go down the list. We got Elijah with the Carter 3, DS2, Jay-Z's Volume 2, The Game's Documentary 2, Jay-Z's Blueprint 2, and Kid Cudi's Man on the Moon 2. Then we got me hitting us with Kanye's Graduation, Eminem's Marshall Mathers LP, Dre's 2001, Nas's Stillmatic, 21 Savage and Metro Boomin's Savage Mode 2, and Run the Jewels 4. That being said, we still have one more pick. Elijah, you go first. What is your non-hip-hop choice?
I'm going to take... So, this is tough. I'm just going to be honest. You kind of inspired me with this one. It's hard because this is such a weird one to try to pick. It's like, which one do you like the best? But I'm going to take Echoes of Silence.
Echoes of
take
Silence
that.
by The Weeknd.
I'm going to take that one. You go ahead and take your pick, and then I'll kind of explain my thought process there.
Well, let me say, I did want to take one of those, but there was an obvious non-hip-hop one I wanted to take. If House of Balloons was available, I would have taken that, I think, just because of personal preference. But again, that was the first of the trilogy, so that was not an option to begin with. So that being said, you can tell on here which one of the two of us listens to more classic rock. And I'm taking Led Zeppelin 4 by Led Zeppelin as my choice. One of the greatest albums of all time and one of the greatest album series of all time. Stairway to Heaven, Black Dog, classic album by one of the greatest bands of all time.
Can't disagree with you on that. I think I pretty much said it when we first started this podcast. Logan's gonna have me in classic rock. He just knows more of that. That's why this non-hip hop one was gonna be a little bit more difficult for me because I didn't really know too many classic rock albums off the top of my head. I didn't know too many I definitely didn't know any other sequel albums. I was thinking about Michael Jackson. I tried my best to see if there was any way I could fit Michael Jackson onto here, but it wasn't working. Yeah. So, Logan mentioned, no, go ahead.
Yeah, so sequel albums are definitely a hip-hop heavy thing. There's not many other genres that have that much. A little bit in rock here and there, a little bit of, in metal here and there. R&B, it's not that big of a thing. So it really is a hip-hop thing, and I think that was born a lot out of the mixtape era. And then, I don't know, I guess hip-hop is just a really storytelling genre. You probably have it somewhere in the country genre. Again, I'm not deep enough into that. That's a very storytelling genre. You probably have it somewhere in there, but it's very heavy in hip-hop. So that non-hip-hop choice was very hard. And also, I just saw it as an easy way to steal the draft because I knew there's no way you'd think of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, exactly. No way in hell. But I will say that sequel albums are definitely huge in hip hop. They're also pretty big in R&B. There's a lot of R&B. I could have said Confessions, honestly, if we're being honest. But there's a lot of R&B ones as well. So I want to say that we're talking about sequel albums. You got to really think about like Logan said, it's more of a storytelling aspect to having a sequel album. Because it has to flow, it has to sound similar, and they have to kind of fit with one another, and it's kind of hard to get that balance. And a lot of other genres that aren't hip hop, because hip hop is just kind of leans more towards that. Like Logan said, country probably also can fit that, because very storytelling country. But to be honest, I don't know any country albums off the top of my head. I cannot tell you a single country album off the top of my head. So I definitely wouldn't have said anything like that.
The other important thing on this, we tried to draft the strongest. There are plenty of examples where there was a sequel album and it sucked compared to the original. Or that the entire series just sucked. Like, for example, Bobby Tarantino by Logic. The first one's okay and then the rest of them kind of suck. You have other examples where the first one's good and the rest of them suck. I'm not going to say, for example, MMLP2 doesn't suck, but it pales in comparison to the first Marshall Mathers LP, so Again, I really enjoyed that project, but definitely not as good. You have other examples like in pop music. You have Folklore and Evermore by Taylor Swift. You have the 2020 Experience by Justin Timberlake. But again, I feel very confident about the picks that we made being included. There are plenty of other examples you could tell us that we probably either didn't think about or we just don't think they're that strong.
Exactly.
Again, we tried our best. Like the Carter 3, it's hard to argue that that's not the best album in that series. Marshall Mathers LP, most people would say is better than Slim Shady LP. No one's saying Stillmatic is better than Illmatic, but it is still very strong. So that was kind of our goal here, was to take the strongest that we could.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that we did a pretty solid job for the most part. Obviously, you guys probably have some that we didn't even think about, and if you have some, we would definitely love to hear it. See what you guys think, and if you guys want to kind of give us your list, give us 6 albums that you think would fit as well. You know, see how they compare to ours. I will say that one of the hardest parts about this was finding, not just finding albums that were sequels, but actually finding albums that were, like Logan said, like that. It wasn't just the first album being super strong and the rest are just trash, because there's plenty of examples where somebody starts off a trilogy or a sequel or whatever, and the first album's amazing, the next are just trash. And if we're not drafting that first album, it's kind of like, should I even bring it in there, you know? So, you know, I'm not sure. Honestly, this one, I feel like this is hopefully this one will be a little bit closer than the last time. I'm sure Logan won on the last landslide last time. I think this one, I think we both had some really good picks. I think that, you know, I will admit Logan kind of stole Stillmatic from me. I kind of gave it to him, but, you know, he definitely got that one. But I think that this was a really fun one to do, and I really found it kind of challenging in a way, because it forced us to think, at least for my opinion, it forced me to think more on the aspect of like, okay, you know, what is a strong trilogy or sequel series, I should say, not just what is a good album series, you know. It's like, what's strong and which one can I truly like pick and be like, yeah, this can stand on its own as a great album. And I hope that, you know, I did a good job. You guys tell me how we did though.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put it up in a poll. Just tell us what you think. A little housekeeping I want to throw out there that Elisha asked me whether, like, let's say Life After Death would count as a sequel to Ready to Die. We decided that one wouldn't work. Same with Dawn FM being a sequel to After Hours. Technically, could they be considered sequels? Sure, but we decided to err away from that because of the lack of an overall sound connection between them. Obviously, some of these may not have the sound connection either, but if they literally have the title, number 2, 3, whatever, then they count. Another example, I've got Malibu, the vinyl, sitting right here. Technically speaking, that's part of a 4-part series with Venice and, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but the 4 California City albums. I just, again, for the same reason, decided not to count that one, because that absolutely would have made my list. That is one of my favorite albums of all time. Just a little housekeeping there, just so y'all know we're not leaving out some of the best albums ever, because we're idiots. We left them out for a reason.
Trust me, I tried with Life After Death, and I tried with Dawn FM and After Hours, but in the end, we just agreed that, like Logan said, they just didn't. They were thematically, they may have made sense, but the sound just wasn't there. And you know, we wanted to kind of stay true to like keeping it a sequel series, you know.
Yeah, we wanted to err on the side of caution in that case. So, that being said, that is all we got for y'all this time, man. I really enjoyed it. I think I won. I think that we talked about some pretty good albums, and for the first time, honestly, this is the first time that we talked about some albums that we genuinely did not like. Or at least I didn't like. Most of the time we've been very positive, so it's been different to try to bring out that negativity and talk about music that we just didn't enjoy. Because again, we try to be positive people. There's more fun to be had when you're enjoying music, but sometimes the music just isn't that good. So I hope y'all enjoyed these reviews. I hope that the small internet connectivity issues that we had didn't affect this episode too much. And I hope y'all keep listening and join us on this next one. I hope y'all like, share, comment, subscribe, rate, all those things on all the sites. Elijah, give us your outro, man.
Yeah, so I mean, Logan kind of stole my thunder there, but just always follow, just always keep up with us. Just keep supporting us. We really appreciate the support. Really love when you guys interact with us and keeping it honest with us. I love that you guys, responded to the poll. Sure, Logan won. I kind of don't like that, but hey, I'm glad that you guys actually participated and voted. So I would love it if you guys did the same thing here. Whether you think I won, Logan won. I think this is one of the ones where we can agree that we both picked some really good picks. So like, but aside from that, we got some good stuff cooking up for you soon. We're definitely coming out with some great ideas that I think you guys will enjoy, and just keep supporting us, man. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate everything that you guys. Any way you guys want to support us, whether it's watching this on YouTube, if you really want to, or listening to Apple Music, Spotify, however you want to support us, we really appreciate that.
Yeah, I got a couple more ideas cooking up for some TikToks, so I'm going to try to start getting those out to y'all slowly. And most importantly, man, keep watching, because eventually this would be great if we could make some money and get Elijah some better Wi-Fi, man.
Yeah, call it GoFundMe. Give me some better Wi-Fi. I need that right now.
Yes, sir. That being said, we will hit y'all up next week. Hopefully we'll get some good albums as we get closer to this Drake release. Peace.
Peace out, guys.